There are certain rules to being an expat and many other things in life, but we'll focus on being an expat. There are certain rules which, if you follow them, they will minimize the amount of problems that you have. The rules are there to help you optimize and make the most of your expat experience. Now, to be unaware of these rules, or to be aware of the rules and not follow these guidelines, which are designed to keep you out of trouble, is going to invite eventually some drama, heartache, and loss. Now, before we jump into the story of this expat, I want to say that I truly feel bad for him. I know a lot of people can say, oh, how could you be that stupid and whatever, but not everybody's all that sharp. Now, I am staying in contact with him to help him transition into getting his life back, and I really do hope that he pulls it together. Now, for the sake of his anonymity, we'll just call him Jim. Now, Jim is a nice guy. He also has a couple of health problems, but he decided 5 years ago to break rule number 1, which is do not start chatting Filipinas online when you can't be in the Philippines. So right off the bat, he was setting himself up to not only meet women in the worst possible way, which is online, but he knew he couldn't get to the Philippines for several years. And in that gap is where so many men start chatting a Filipina, the emotional investment begins, and it's not long before they're sending money out of either guilt or artificial affection. And that's what happened to Jim. Now, the woman that he began speaking with, the Filipina, was 43 years old and said she was very active in her church. This brings up rule number 2, which is not all Filipinas are the same. Not all Filipinas are gold diggers, and not all older women are mature or honest or of good character. There is no all, as I have said so many times. Whether you're talking about women from the province, women who are older, women from the city, there are good and bad in every group that you can think of. And maybe the clearest way to get this across is to say not all expats are the same. Some expats are good guys. Some expats are complete criminals. Some expats are alcoholics. Some expats just want to meet a good woman and have a nice, quiet, happy life together with their Filipino wife. So not all expats are the same, and not all older Filipino women are the same. So Jim thinks, well, gee, I found this older woman, and she says she goes to church, which brings us to rule number 3. When you are 7,000 miles away talking to a woman on the internet, you have no way to really verify that anything she tells you is true or not. She could be married, talking to you 2 hours a day, and when she logs off, she cooks dinner for her husband. And her husband asks her, has he started sending money yet? And she'll say, no, but it won't be long. So Jim believes her that since she says she's active in the church and she's an older woman, she must be a good candidate. And he begins chatting her for 3 years. 3 years. And during that time, he is sending her money on a regular basis. Now, mind you, he's never even met her in person yet. So at the end of these 3 years, he makes 2 declarations to this woman. First, he says, I want us to get married. Will you marry me? He does this online, never met her in person, and online, he asks her to marry him based on long distance video chats. The second thing he announces after 3 years of video LDR, long distance relationship, for those of you who don't know, he announces he's finally getting to the Philippines. He's going to move there permanently so they can get married and start their life together. Now, this breaks rule number 4, which is, as I have said for years and years, know a woman in person for a year before you even start talking about marriage. in person so you can see without them logging off how they really act when they are tired, when they are bored, when they are irritated, when they are disappointed, when they are angry. This is the kind of stuff that gets hidden when you're just chatting 1 or 2 hours a day on video. So Jim goes ahead and proposes marriage, gets on a plane, flies to the Philippines. I won't give the name of the city, but he goes to this not so popular city that has nothing going on there. It is not the best introduction for living in the Philippines, but he goes straight there because that's where she lives. And she wants him living in her city. She is calling the shots, which breaks rule number 5. Be the man. Have a plan. The woman should be merging into your life direction, not the other way around. It is not up to you to let her call all the shots. You should have a life plan in place, and your position should be to any woman you're thinking of marrying, here's the direction I'm going in. If you want to come with me, that would be great. But if you want to do something else, do it without me. But no, Jim goes ahead and moves to this podunk city because that's what she wants. Speaking of which, now that he's in the Philippines, they start talking about a wedding. Well, what she wants is a big Catholic wedding. Now, she's 43 and already has had some kids, but she wants a big Catholic wedding. Why? Because she is so active in the church. We'll get to that in a minute. So he agrees, and within 2 months of landing in the Philippines, only dating this one woman, within 2 months, they're married. And as I told him when he called me yesterday in a panic, you married a complete stranger. You knew what she looked like, you know what her voice sounded like on the video, but you don't know anything about her. And you married her within 2 months of getting in the Philippines, and you made that decision before you even left for the Philippines. So there they are, married. Now, as I mentioned, she's active in the church. And it just so happens that she has access to the church funds. Now, he did come down with a short period of health problems, and right away, he gave her full access to his money. Every time his Social Security check came in, he transferred the money over to her account, and she took care of the bills, took care of his prescriptions and whatnot. And even when he got out of the hospital, he still wasn't doing so good, had back problems, and it became the norm that she was handling 90% of the money, and he was the one on a small allowance. Well, after about a year, it comes out that her lifestyle and spending habits required, in her mind, that she borrow money from the church funds without them knowing about it. She considered it a loan, and she would one day pay it back. And he told her, well, I don't know what they call it here in the Philippines, but back home we call that embezzling. That is an unethical commingling of funds. You didn't ask the church for this loan. You accessed and took money that you were not supposed to take. So much for her spiritual integrity. But it gets worse. Even though she's handling the majority of the money, she is constantly hitting him up with the small amount that he's on allowance for. I need 500 pesos to go get some bread, or I need 300 pesos for this. And, just nickel and diming him all the time. And this goes on for like another 2 years after they got married and he moved into the Philippines. So then she began, after about 6-8 months of them being together, saying, we need to buy a house. And he was all okay with that. Even though, breaking rule number 7, I have recommended for years, yes, buy a house for your wife after 2 or 3 years of good marriage. They had only been married maybe 9 months. But he goes ahead and says, I'm setting a budget, 2 million pesos, to go and find a home. So she starts talking to her network of friends and finds a house That's 3 million pesos. And he said, that's not in our budget. But she said, this is the house I want. And that's the house he ended up paying for. Again, he wasn't the man in the house. He wasn't being the leader. He was letting her call the shots. And now he said, well, if we get this house for 3 million pesos, we're going to be on a tight budget. You're not going to be able to spend money the way you're accustomed to. And she was, yeah, just get the house. So he did. As soon as the title, which was of course in her name, he said as soon as the official title was delivered to the house and she saw she now owns this house, he said 2 weeks ago, which is when this happened, all of a sudden her entire disposition changed. It's not that it was so good anyway, but now she moves him out to a separate bedroom. They're not even sleeping in the same bed. By the way, he's 71. Again, she's 43. Was about 38 when they first got started. So they're sleeping in separate beds. For starters, now that she's got the title of the house, all the lovey-dovey affections or whatever remnant there was, that's gone. She's still nickel and diming him every day for money, saying she doesn't have money to pay for this or pay for that, even though she's in charge of the money. So at this point, Jim contacted me a few days ago, gave me the whole story, and said, I think we're done. I think I made a mistake marrying this woman. I wasn't too hard on him, but I did tell him clearly, yes, you made several mistakes. But what really matters now is what are you going to do going forward? I said, rehabilitating this woman is a lost cause. She's 43 years old, has no integrity. She's shown herself to be a liar, duplicitous, a thief, an embezzler. There is no fixing this woman. I said, you can choose either to accept this as your fate and live with her and hope she doesn't rob you blind at some point, or you can just leave and live your life separated from this woman. If you want to get a divorce back in the United States, that's an option. Once you get a divorce decree in the United States, you can file it in the Philippines. Even though Philippines doesn't provide divorce, they do honor and recognize divorce decrees from other countries once you file it in Manila. I said, that's up to you. And he said, I'll take option B. I'm leaving. I've had enough. Problem is, I don't have enough money to move somewhere else. Well, about 6 hours later, late last night, he contacts me again and says, I am shaking. I don't know how to react to this. So I asked him what happened. He said his wife was on her way getting ready to leave the house, came back in the house, rushed into her room, and came out. He could see she was holding about 3,000 pesos, which he thought was odd because beforehand she had said she had no money and she went out the door. So he went into her room, dug around, and in a drawer came across a bank bag and a purse that was jam-packed with cash, all rolled up in bundles with rubber bands, just bundles and bundles of cash. Now, a few times in town, because he's not the most tech-savvy guy, a few times in town, since he's on her bank account together, he did ask about the balance, but she was not putting this money in that bank account because she didn't want him to know she had it. This is all the money she'd been nickel and diming him for over the last 3 years. Not to mention the money she was getting through wire transfers the previous 3 years before he got there. Now, I'm sure she spent some of it. He didn't know, he didn't take a full count. He didn't know how much money was there, but he knew it was a lot. So he said, I'm going to take the money, and now that I can afford to leave, I'm going tomorrow morning, which is today. I'm going to catch a bus and get out of here. And I said, I really don't blame you. It's time to call it quits. But then he contacted me even later into the evening last night and said, well, how am I going to move all my stuff? I've got at least 5 suitcases worth of clothes and items I want to take. And this is where I really had to be blunt and direct with him. I told him, you are in a situation right now where this scheming woman has squirreled away a fortune and you're about to walk away with it. All the fruits of her evil planning and scheming, you're taking your money back and you're walking away. You do not want to be in that house when she comes back, because she had taken a trip to another city for the weekend. I said, this is your golden opportunity to pack one suitcase with your most important things, your passport, your ID, your bank cards, and some clothes. Everything else, leave it behind. That is replaceable. But I am not exaggerating when I told him this is the sort of thing where the expat ends up dead in the kitchen floor from multiple stab wounds from the kitchen knife or whatever. I said, you're 71 years old, your back is not in great shape, you are not in a position to defend yourself physically when she flips out and realizes you're walking out the door with her jackpot that she got by unethical means. She robbed you. She defrauded you. She stole from you. You don't owe her a conversation. You don't owe her closure. You don't need her permission to leave. You pack your one suitcase, throw the money in it, get on the bus, and leave. And then you block her on everything you have, your phone, your Facebook. Don't even tell any of your friends what city you're going to. You leave her with a cold trail. And he actually said, well, she's going to church Sunday. Maybe I can sneak back in, just get a hotel here in town and grab more of my things. I told him, your life is worth more than a bag of clothes. As pissed off as she's going to be, I highly doubt she's going to be in church on Sunday. Once you move, you can use that money and your continuing Social Security and disability payments to buy more clothes. Get them on Amazon if you really need large sizes or something, but once you leave, never talk to her again. It will only escalate, and do not physically return. People like her are capable of anything, including harming you to where you're even more disabled or leaving you dead on the floor. So he said he acknowledged what I was saying, said he was going to carry out this plan. Again, even as I'm recording this, if he stuck to the plan, he should be on a bus midday heading out of his city, never to return. But what worries me is that he and other men I've talked to like him will say, and he said it, why is it every woman, my 2 previous wives, why did they treat me like dirt when I was so good to them? And I told him, your lack of leadership, your lack of having a standard practically invited you into their life as a doormat. You do not stand up for yourself, and people like this who are takers, who are selfish, they can smell a victim when they meet them, and they will love bomb this person that they know is gullible, naive, and doesn't have a spine. They will love bomb this person in the beginning, and then they will commence to carve them apart one piece at a time until there's nothing left. So I do hope the best for him. He broke all the rules. He's not all that bright, not when it comes to human nature. So I hope maybe this time, maybe he learned his lesson and he can do better, hopefully, from this point out.